In regards to whenever you're seeing any of these friendly faces here at Metro, make sure to give them a nice virtual high five. When you see them around, I would like to start out by proudly welcoming Khalaf to the Metro family. Khalaf has plenty of commercial as well as luxury real estate experience. He's excited to join in with Metro, namely come back to Keller Williams because of the technology advances that we've been having, as well as to expand his business and even grow out a team. Would also like to welcome Stephanie. Stephanie is going to be joining the Atomitis Network, one of our mega teams here in regards to their prospecting one of their lead agents. So welcome aboard, Stephanie. Also, huge welcome to Ruby and Ryan Thayman. Ruby is a top producer from another company back in Texas. She and her husband Ryan ended up joining Metro due to the culture, and will be actually dabbling into, Ryan's going to be taking over residential real estate, all of San Diego, right, Ryan? And then Ruby's going to be taking over as far as commercial, whoop, whoop. So we got that lovely dynamic there. Last, and well, not last nor least, Lars. So Lars is going to be joining the team Drew as an inside sales agent, has plenty of phone sales experience, is a licensed agent, is really looking forward to expanding out his business, being an ISA with Team Drew. Now, last but certainly not least, is Beth Payne. Many of us that deal with new construction know Beth. She is an former area director for D.R. Horton. And Beth and I actually go way back a couple years ago, and started out these conversations when she decided to transition out of an executive leadership position with D.R. Horton. She chose Metro as her home. So when you see these friendly faces, make sure to give them a nice high five and a warm Metro welcome. Next up, just wanted to let you guys know, in regards to announcements, so any of your property pitches, make sure that you're posting those to the inner office page. I love seeing how many escrows we're opening up, and many of them are double-ended with agents here in the office. So great job. So definitely when you're posting those coming soons, helping out those with the buyer interest, same thing. Whenever you're posting your buyer needs, we have prospecting kings, queens, and everybody in between to be able to offer their level of service as well. So next up, I know we're going right through this here real quick, so I want to give the most time to our guest speaker. Broker Bob, give us a quick little broker update, please.
Thank you, Stephen. I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Okay, so here's something I discussed last risk management in January, and you need to be made aware of this. I posted this on the inner office page. So you remember the Department of Justice sued NAR, the National Association of Realtors, and they came to a settlement. And the whole concept behind the suit, if I could be as simple as I possibly can, was they are attempting to protect the consumer. They always wanted to make sure that the consumers knew that and be very transparent in the marketplace for home buyers and sellers, in that the amount of compensation offered to buyers agents for each MLS listing will be made publicly available. So guess what? That is now being indexed out through the IDX feed to multiple sites, so Realtor.com, Zillow, etc. So all those listings that are going out to the interwebs, you're going to see, some of them will see. Now, here's the difference though. CRMLS, which is the MLS for South Bay and North County and LA Orange County area, they have opted in already. SDMLS has not. So some of those listings, SDMLS, will not show what a buyer's agent is being paid. Here's the long and short of it though. What we are seeing across the state is, now that buyers know what buyer's agents will be paid in a transaction, they are coming after your money. So if you're not in scripts with Stephen and know how to present your value and overcome a commission objection, I highly recommend you start attending, because we need to address that sooner. It's a sad day. It's sad that they are now coming after the buyer's agent commission that way, because once consumers see you make, let's say it's a big listing, they see you make $50,000, they actually think you keep all that in your pocket. They forget you have a business, pay taxes, etc. So just be aware of that, and you'll see some of that. You'll probably be asked, so I don't want you to get caught off guard. That's the long and short of it. We have a great speaker today, so enough from me. Have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you, BB. All right, next up, would love to get a little commercial corner update from our very own Nikki Francis. Nikki, what you got for us?
Hey guys, we've had a lot of people asking, what is commercial? What is not commercial? How do I benefit? What's the deal? And is it a separate division? So we put together a little cheat sheet. I don't know if you guys can see this. I thought it'd be easier than sharing a screen, and I'm hiding behind it. So if you have any questions outside of this, let me know. Basically, what is commercial real estate, or what is considered commercial real estate? Commercial real estate is multifamily rentals over 5 units, mixed use, industrial, storage, office, retail, and land. Land being development land. Are there exceptions to these things? Yes. Land stated for home building is an exception, but it's still non-residential and should require some guidance. In a nutshell, and very simply put, single family homes up to 4 units are residential. Everything else is commercial. So if you have any question whatsoever, please don't hesitate to partner up, give us a call, and we can help you out with that. In addition to that, how can you benefit from it? There's no reason that you guys should be leaving money on the table. If you have something you're not sure about, or somebody wants something that is outside of the realm of residential, just reach out to us. Many of your investors, or many of you are working with investors, those investors often own businesses, they own multifamily rentals, and they're in need of 1031 exchanges, all in which we can help partner with you. The process being, reach out to us for both ethics and E&O compliance. We will consult with you on the project. We will refer, but you will remain in possession of your client, and then you'll collect a big fat check at the end. So again, Commercial Corner, give us a call if you have anything that fits into those needs. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you, Nikki. I had to keep on checking the side of your desk when you're like, you got a glass of wine going on, but it's a candle, and it's okay. No judgment either way. So thank you for that little update. I'm going to pass this over to Movement Mortgage. Wes, you got some value for us in regards to helping out with our buyers in a tight market. Talk to us.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a quick update and let you know that we're starting to see interest rates rise, or we started to see them increase after it was Lincoln's birthday. So after President's Day holiday, the market started to adjust and interest rates started to go up. And we're at about 0.375% higher than where we were before. So if you were working with buyers that narrowly qualify, please double check with your loan officer and make sure that they're still in a good spot so they don't get a nasty surprise later on when you get an acceptance on their offer. We have seen hopefully what appears to be the bottom. Hopefully we'll have a nice little bounce from here, but it's a little too soon to tell. So we'll keep you posted. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Ed, Amanda, or myself. But just wanted to give you guys a heads up that the market's been moving and not in a lower direction for the moment. So just putting that on your radar. I hope you all have a great afternoon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Hey guys.
Thank you. And Eddie, thank you so much as well. So, all right, without further ado, now that we've titillated you enough to be able to build up this excitement for our special guest, I'd like to pass it over to Ashley Lund to make the formal introduction, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Awesome. I am so excited. First, obviously, to have Mark on here just warms my heart, but I'm seeing a lot of old friendly faces I haven't seen in a while, and it's very cool. So this is a massive treat for anybody who's been with KW for more than 5 years, because if you were with us prior to 2015, Mark Willis was our CEO, and he had been our CEO from, Mark, I think 2005 to 2015. And pretty much I grew up under his leadership and feel blessed to have done so. Luckily, he's become a friend and a mentor, remained a mentor and a guide for me. And he's got we talked briefly this morning, and he's got some really cool stuff to share with you. So Mark, I'm not seeing you yet because you're not talking. So
You don't see me. I'm up there.
there you are.
Yeah. Hello.
Awesome. Where are you? I didn't ask you that.
What's that?
Are you downtown Austin?
No, I'm in my study at the River House. Yeah, I've got a little working office here, and I've got my place at the W in downtown Austin. I came from there this morning, and I've been working all day. In fact, this is I've done 2 podcasts today that both went an hour and a half. That I did one with Erica Hill that is going to be amazing. And then I did one also with Pam Temple. And I see some people on this call, including you, Ashley, that I'd love to do a podcast with.
Let's do it.
I'm launching Mark Willis Leadership, and it is it's a joy. It is just a joy to be going again and going like this and going in the real estate industry. You know, I spent the last, some of you have heard me say this, but I think my post KW years up until about last March, April, May, June were kind of like my Churchill years in the wilderness. And what that did for me was it gave me that reflective time. And, you know, for those of you that don't know, Winston Churchill was in power in Great Britain throughout the 20s. And then in the 30s, in 1929, he was kind of exiled from political office and ridiculed. And so he went on this decade-long journey he calls his years in the wilderness. And he said it's in those years in the wilderness where psychic dynamite, and I love that language, psychic dynamite is created. And I feel like I've had that opportunity to create my psychic dynamite, and I'm excited to be your guest speaker. Ashley, you're a dear friend. I'd do anything for you that you asked. And I see some other really good friends. I see Lori Cutler on there. I see Jody Bach. I see Steve and Eve. And by the way, Steve, you've got a lot of facial hair there that I didn't remember.
We're calling him Jesus.
You kind of, yeah, I was going to say, you've got a little bit of the biblical look there. It looks good on you. And I also saw one of my heartthrobs as I clicked through the pages, and that is Judy Johns. I didn't get a chance to see everybody, but it just like brought energy to my soul to see you guys. And I want to say thank you for having me, Ashley.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for saying yes.
Anytime. So this is a conversation that I suggested, and I think it's a timely conversation on a lot of levels. It is how to live a life of inspiration over a life of obligation. And I can walk you through my thoughts on that, but I want to share with you the definition of what it means to be inspired. It's an adjective, first of all. It means aroused, animated, imbued with spirit to do something by or as if by supernatural or divine influence. So that's what it is to be inspired. Now, on the flip side, let's look at what the definition of obligated is. To be obligated is to be beholden, bounden, indebted, and obliged. To cause a person to give into pressure. So I talked a little bit about the years in the wilderness. And I want to share with you that sometimes we have to get quiet so that we can manage the pressures. We can manage those feelings of being bound to something we may not feel good about. And I think that this has never been more true than this year or last year, 2020, in that, you know, we had the pandemic. And I think with that, we had an opportunity to get quiet, get still, and to find a way to stop escaping on an ongoing basis. I've talked a little bit about my journey, and Ashley, you knew Cindy, my late wife. And you know, it was interesting because I'm being a little more personal with you all than I might be in another dialogue. So if you've heard this before, I apologize. And I know Ashley had me speak on a Zoom, I want to say probably in early April, maybe second week of April or something like that. And I shared this story. So I don't want to just repeat myself. And yet I know that when my wife like got diagnosed, and then after she passed away, I know that my knee-jerk response was to repress and escape. Hopefully I didn't project. Certainly I suppressed the grief that I was feeling. Certainly I did everything I could to escape how I felt. And fortunately, I have a great lifestyle and I have a lot of good friends, and they gave me lots of venues for escape. And then the pandemic hit, and here we are trying to be inspired when we're feeling obligated by a dead gum pandemic that none of us chose, right? And so I work on being inspired. I work on being inspired every single day. And, you know, I think that starts with getting still and getting clarity and I collected some of my favorite cards, that we are not our thoughts. We are not our thoughts. We are simply aware of our thoughts. And the more we focus on our thoughts, the more we get pulled into that feeling of whatever the thought is. So if the thought is inspiring, if the feeling is inspiring, we get pulled to a higher level. If the feeling is obligation or obligated or obligating, we get pulled into a level that doesn't always feel good. Now, a lot of you know that I am a David Hawkins fan. I love David Hawkins because he's got this wonderful instrument called the map of consciousness. I would highly recommend that if you have a browser, that you just go ahead and Google map of consciousness, David Hawkins images, and you might be able to follow this with me. But Hawkins says that when we reach this point right here, courage, I don't know if you guys can see that. When we reach courage, that we begin to nurture the higher self. And that as we nurture the higher self, we become inspired. And yet, if we're just right beneath courage and pride, we are nurturing the lower self or the temporal self. And I know that sometimes that can feel really good in the moment. It can feel really good to inflate yourself, because inflating yourself and having pride is better than being angry, but it's just above being angry. And sometimes it feels good to get mad, because getting mad actually brings you to a higher frequency of energy than being shackled to desire and craving for things that you want that you don't have. It's like something's missing from your life. And the fact that something's missing from your life leaves you feeling obligated. It does not leave you feeling inspired. And then if you even go below that, we've got fear, which is pretty self-explanatory in that it doesn't feel good. And yet many of us become run by our fear because it's our dominant thought. So the first thing I would invite you to just kind of focus on is that you are not your thoughts. You're just aware of your thoughts, and how deep you go with that awareness is up to you. When my thoughts are negative, when I'm feeling anger, when I'm feeling pride, when I'm feeling desire, when I'm feeling fear, grief, apathy, shame, guilt, I don't really deal a lot with guilt and shame and that sort of stuff. I certainly don't deal with apathy, but I certainly have dealt with grief. I've dealt with fear. I deal with fear every single day. I've dealt with desire. Lord knows I've dealt a lot with desire, anger, pride. And yet what I know is that when I go to courage, that I'm at the level of empowerment. And Hawkins says that courage is the gateway to spirit. And remember that being inspired being in a state of inspiration is being driven by some supernatural divine source. Okay? So this might be way out there for a lot of you. And yet I will tell you that I think awareness is the number one role that a leader has. So I've got this company now called Mark Willis Leadership. We're dealing with helping people lead themselves effectively so they can lead others effectively. See, I think our first responsibility is to ourselves, to be the best that we can be, to express our genius to the world. And our second responsibility is to have compassion and empathy for other people. And then when we have compassion and empathy for other people, we can actually execute on our third responsibility, which is to be the best that we can be for others. And yet, until you take care of yourself, until you learn to have compassion and empathy, until you learn who you are and what matters to you, what's really important, and you get clear about your personal values, and you get clear about the beliefs that support you on your journey of executing your mission, and then you begin to execute on that mission, that's where your real psychic dynamite shows up on the physical plane. And so I just want to say that what we're focused on with Mark Willis Leadership is what I'm calling intrinsic leadership. It's leading from the inside out. And it starts with self-leadership. You know, I had a great conversation with Gary Keller. It was before family reunion. And, you know, I always love talking with Gary because at the end of the day, we do things a little differently, but we always think the same way, and we always see where the puck is going, often before it gets there. And we're completely aligned. In fact, I was talking earlier today about my experience at Keller Williams, and someone asked me, why do you think that you guys had this amazing long run? And I'll tell you, we were Gary, Mo, Mary, and me were all aligned perfectly in that we all wanted the same thing. And none of us had to explain why we wanted it. And, you know, the thing I would say is that no one succeeds alone. I know that's an old Gary message. And yet, when I was talking about leadership with Gary and building this leadership company, he says, you know, when I walk in a room and I'm talking to a group of kids or youth, he says, the first thing I do is I ask them, what is leadership? What is really, you know, if you were to define what leadership is, what is leadership and what is the function of leadership? And most people are going to say that leadership is, you know, Keller Williams has said for years, teaching others how to think so they do what they need to do, so they get what they want to get. Leadership is leading other people, when in fact, leadership begins with the self. And so what I suggest that people do to get inspired is that they get really clear about what matters and what they want, asking the question, who am I? And where is my special gift that I can share with the world? And so going deeper, I don't know if you guys remember an exercise that we've had in Keller Williams for years. It's called Getting the Book. I think it's now called, is it called Future Self?
The motivational interview.
The motivational interview. Okay. It's been a few years since I've been around for that part. The getting the book on somebody is the process of saying, so for you, Ashley, what's really important about your career future? What are the 4, 5 big things? And then taking each one of those things and unpacking them with demonstrations and examples and feelings that are aroused by those demonstrations and examples. How it makes you feel, the impact that it has on you. And the first thing I do when I'm coaching someone after validating their behavioral profile is I do a really good job of getting to know them and talking about what's really important about their career future. What are the examples of that? How does that make them feel? So they get clarity about who they are and what their genius is. And then from there, what personal values do you hold near and dear? What matters to you in terms of the way you behave, in terms of how you execute on that behavior? What are the values that drive it? You know, that I've heard it said that a mission statement is like a tabletop. The beliefs and the values are the legs that hold that table up and make it a table that you can use functionally. And so in helping people understand who they are and what matters, I try to help people visualize their future in a meaningful way. I've been doing a lot of reading, and first thing I did was reread some of my favorite books. I just finished rereading Think and Grow Rich recently. I think that's my 5th run at that book. Every time I read it, I find something new in it. And I've been reading everything from $1 Million Habits, Robert Ringer, to Michael Singer. I've been going back to the books that drove me forward in my career. And one of the things that I came across in $1 Million Habits, and Robert Ringer talks about this in the first chapter of the book, is this concept called Holonomic brain theory. So I filmed a course with Forbes that is based on this concept, and then building habits around your visualization of what your life is going to look like. So holonomic brain theory is kind of interesting in and of itself. It takes quantum physics. It takes your brain and it looks at it from the viewpoint of quantum physics. Rather than looking at your brain as a series of neurons and synapses, it looks at your brain as this holonomic unit where everything is connected to everything else. And holonomic brain theory says, well, let me just read this. Holonomic brain theory, also known as the holographic brain, is a branch of neuroscience investigating the idea that human consciousness is formed by quantum effects in or between cells. This is opposed to traditional neuroscience, which investigates the brain's behavior by looking at patterns of neurons and the surrounding chemistry, and which assumes that any quantum effects will not be significant at this scale. The entire field of quantum consciousness is often criticized as pseudoscience, that the specific theory of quantum consciousness was developed by Carl Pribram, initially in collaboration with the physicist David Bohm, building on the initial theories of holograms that describe human cognition by modeling the brain as a holographic storage unit. It is suggested that these processes involve electric oscillation in the brain's fine fibered dendritic webs, which are different from the more commonly known action potentials involving axons and synapses. In other words, what this says is that if you can get a real clear picture of where you're going, a crystal clear, well-defined picture that you can see, you can mentally picture it, and you hold that vision, you hold that picture as your guiding force for your career, that your brain will automatically organize circumstances such that that vision is fulfilled. And I found it to be very accurate for me in my life. I can tell you story after story, but I started going back to my lessons from my 20s, and I found this creative visualization workbook that I had. Shakti Gawain wrote Creative Visualization. I read it in my mid-20s, and then in my later 20s, my wife Cindy and I created a vision of where we were going, what our lives would look like. And I drew this awful picture of myself that I will not show you because I'm not a good artist, but I drew this awful picture of myself that was me standing behind a podium addressing the largest audience of real estate agents in a single room as the CEO and the leader of that company. Years later, I spent time with my wife visualizing the birth of our daughter. We even set a date. We adopted Mary Elizabeth. She was born on the exact day that we created this vision for. I think one of the things we do in life is we get so busy running on the hamster wheel that we forget to slow down and imagine. I have this favorite quote: logic will take you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. You know who wrote that? Albert Einstein. I think what we do is we get so busy in our day-to-day grind, in our stories that are the thoughts in our heads, and we create so much meaning about those stories that those stories become our reality. And I think as we build these stories, what we're doing is missing what is our God-given opportunity to imagine the life that we want to live. To really look carefully at what it looks like, what you're doing, where you're living, who you're with, and imagining a better tomorrow based on your contribution to the world. And so for me personally, that has been something that I think I happened across simply because I was on a journey to go create something, and I thought visualization was a pretty good way to do it. It's in this course, by the way, this Forbes course called The Magic Link that's coming out. I included this lady by the name of Ashanti Johnson. If you get, she's in the course, but if you get a chance and you just have a moment, you might want to Google Ashanti Johnson and her TED Talk that she did on visualization. And we feature her for the course. And in that, she says that she'd sit on her balcony and she would picture her parking lot being the parking lot of her business full of cars. And that's all she did, and people coming in and energy and everything else. And today she has a thriving business in Chicago with the exact parking lot that she visualized. I think what I would ask you to do, if you're brave, if you want to go activate some courage on this journey, I would ask you to use your imagination and let it run. Let it go. Take Gary's words. Think big, real big. Aim high and act bold. I would say to you that when you imagine that journey, if you want to do this one thing and nurture that journey instead of nurturing the thoughts that aren't taking you there, you'll get on a pretty fulfilling ride. I've got some beliefs that I follow that I want to share with you. And, you know, I think first of all, I want to share with you that I've read a lot of business books. I don't always enjoy reading business books, but I read them because I want to learn. I remember Good to Great was hard for me to get through, but I got through it. I know that some of the Stephen Covey books, Principle-Centered Leadership with the tiny print, it took me 10 months to read that book. There's Fierce Leadership, Susan Scott's book. I like Fierce Leadership because I like Susan so much.
Yeah.
But my point is that I tend to read business books slowly. So over like on Saturday, over an hour and a half, I read The Motive, Patrick Lencioni, and it's fantastic. It's about why we get into business and why we become CEOs of our business. And you guys are all CEOs. And what I found is that those weren't the most important books that I read. The most important books that I read were books that were more about self-help and getting clarity about who we are as spiritual beings, having a physical experience. And so in Mark Willis Leadership, I'm putting that front and center. We have 4 core beliefs. One is we work with the intention of manifesting the highest good possible. I think that's the ultimate intention of the universe, is for us to manifest the highest good possible. Our second core belief is that we nurture the positive and forward-looking, and we starve the negative and backward-looking. So manifest the highest good possible, nurture the positive and forward-looking, starve the negative and backward-looking. Third belief, relationships matter way more than transactions. We put the people we serve first, and we never put our own needs ahead of theirs. I think that's the true mark of a servant leader. And then the fourth is one that my mother taught me, and that is we do right and fear not. So as I talk about getting clarity about our beliefs and our values, those 4 beliefs are the beliefs that hold our company up to the world. And then I've got a few principles that I think are important to share. Number one, lead with your heart, not with your head. We think in our heads, we know in our hearts. You know, I have this great story about this dear friend's 7-year-old son that was staying with us about 10 years ago. Maybe it was 7 years ago. I don't know when it was, but it was a really cold day. We were at the river house and he wanted to get in the hot tub. So I heated up the hot tub and it was about 50 degrees outside. The pool wasn't heated, but the hot tub was. And you know, little kids, they can get in cold water and it's no big deal whatsoever. You put an adult in cold water, it gets really uncomfortable and we scream and we holler. And kids just swim around just like, you know, no pain at all. They have the joy in the swim, right? So he says to me, Mr. Mark, will you please get in the pool with me? I'm like, heck no, I'm not going to get in the pool. It's 50-something degrees outside. That water's got to be in the high 50s or early, low 60s. I'm not going to get in that swimming pool. And he said, do you think that or do you know it? Guess what I ended up doing? I dove in the pool. We think in our heads, we know in our hearts. And I think the goal of a leader should be to earn the hearts and minds of the people they lead. Once they've led themselves effectively, it's earn the hearts and minds of the people you lead. Understand what they want. Understand what matters with them and to them, and then help them get what they want. Serve them on that journey. And so lead with your heart, not with your head. We think in our heads, we know in our hearts. As you begin to nurture what this vision might look like, what do you know in your heart? My second principle, and this is one that really worked well for me as a team leader in Keller Williams, worked well for me throughout my career at Keller Williams, and it's worked well for me beyond Keller Williams. And that is give first. Keep giving. Don't expect others to give back to you. Certainly not until you've given to them. And I think that a lot of times when we carry these stories, when we carry these thoughts in our heads, we can think of what we want to get rather than what we have to give. I remember years ago, and Judy, you and I, and a few of us that have been around the block a couple of times will remember that there was a real estate speaker named Rick Willis. And Rick Willis, people would get me confused with Rick Willis. I was so flattered when they would do that because I thought he was such a great thinker. He's one of my favorite speakers in the 90s in the real estate industry. And he said something to me. He said, I had more to give as a manager than a real estate agent. When I knew that, I went into management. I had more to give as a real estate agent when I became a real estate agent than I had to give as an engineer or wherever he had been before. Now, I've always thought, where do you have the most to give? So as you give first, you keep giving. Maybe you'll receive. Stop worrying about whether or not you'll receive. Just give. Earn the hearts and minds of the people that you lead. Understand what they want. Help them get there and give and give and give. Now we'll go to my third principle. This one is not as easy. We all want to thrive, right? Just raise your hands. You want to thrive? You guys enthusiastic about thriving? Okay. If you want to thrive, Joseph, you got to strive. If you want to thrive, you have got to strive. And while you strive for growth, not perfection. Strive to become better than you are. Strive for incremental gains in understanding. If you ask me, what are the most important moments of my life? I will unequivocally tell you, it's not when I was thriving, according to how everybody else would see me. When I was striving and growing and expanding and becoming more. And so I think we have to be willing to strive. But if we're going to strive for something, it's got to freaking matter to us. And the only way to figure out whether or not or what matters to you is to start looking for it and imagining it and thinking, what could it be if it were to be? So then as I'm thriving, I have my fifth principle, KFG, Anybody know what KFG stands for?
Yep.
Keep.
We can say it. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I did a podcast with Mo yesterday. Are you kidding?
Oh, okay. Well.
Keep effing going.
Hey, oh, I was gonna say we can use a. Remember that?
Yeah, F-bomb. I think I said that to you.
You did.
Here's the thing. Inactivity is the enemy of the human condition. You want to see an arm turn from a strong arm, not saying mine is strong, but it's a healthy arm. If I took my entire arm and I put it in a cast and I immobilized it for 6 weeks, what would my arm look like when I took that cast off? Wouldn't look good. Be all shriveled up, contracted. See, the thing is that when it relates to the human condition, the worst thing that you can possibly do is nothing. Inactivity is the enemy of the human condition. And guess what? Where do you think the most important work will show up for you? It'll show up in the work that you do for yourself. That's where your most important work exists. That takes us to my next principle. This one is really hard for me, guys. Some of you are going to relate to this. In other words, these are principles that I didn't necessarily create for anybody else. I created these for myself because I know where I can fall into patterns. This one is brilliant. It's short and it's sweet. And as a real estate practitioner, professional, leader, mortgage loan officer, title company rep, anything in business, you'll go farther with this one than almost anything else. Ask, don't tell. You know, you look at where people blow listing presentations. You look at where team leaders blow recruiting appointments because they haven't done a thorough needs analysis and they haven't gone deep enough to understand who they're serving and what matters to them. And so I would say, ask, don't tell. And then next, as you go on this journey to build your business, avoid creativity. Jody, you're having a hard time with that one. I'm not saying don't be creative. I'm saying avoid creativity once you're launching. Because you know where people get ahead in business? They master the basics. They find out what the basic strategies are, and they master those strategies. Now, for me, why did I put this down as a principle? Well, it's real simple. I love the creative, new, shiny, fun distraction. Nobody likes it better than I do. Remember the AVA, those of you who've been around for a while? I'm a low 3. What does low 3 mean? Impatient, needs variety, needs diversity, wants to operate with urgency, and really thrives on creative brainstorming and impatience. See, I have to manage myself to stay patient, stay with the basics. Still, every day I screw this up. Jody, you're not alone. Those of you that can relate to that. And yet I would tell you that if you want to make solid, measurable, incremental progress in your business. Go find out what the basics are and master them. Now, fortunately for us in real estate, the basics aren't all that complex. They're just not always that fun. And we have to learn to have joy in the process, not the outcome. I remember that I was my home in Austin, which I just sold. Cindy's in my house. I rented it for a while because I couldn't get rid of it, but I just sold it. I remember when we were, doing this, more like $1.5 million remodel on that house. And it went, and it went, and it went, and we were living in the house. And I had this wise friend to me say, I said, oh, I'm so impatient. I'm so tired of this being down. I'm so tired of all this stuff. I'm just like, it's just frustrating me. He said, Mark, it might be in your best interest just to enjoy the process and appreciate it. I still need that reminder on a daily basis. Okay. Next belief. Nobody ever has to lose for me to win, and hopefully not for you to win. That's one of my favorite Gary Keller lessons that he taught me early in my career. I love Gary, and I just have to say, I know he loves me because we see each other. And Gary and I were having this late Friday afternoon meeting. I mean, and we're talking like, this is 92. Yeah, this is 1992. This is a long time ago, y'all. This is 30 years ago, practically. We're in this meeting, and by the way, at the time, Keller Williams was not a big deal at all. And I was the team leader of the Southwest Market Center, and then we had this lady who had become the team leader of the Northwest Market Center, and she would always butt heads with me and butt heads with Gary. And so she quit the company. She left. She took the top producers, for the most part, that were in that office and started her own company. And I felt so defensive for Keller Williams at that time that I said to Gary, I said, oh, I'm gonna get her. I know how to get her. I'm gonna get her where it hurts. You ever had that feeling? Well, I know that's not the last time I had that feeling. And yet he looked at me, and he's, Gary in his fashion, he's all down and out, looking down, being negative, and I'm just trying to be positive. And the way I'm going to suggest that I'm going to be positive is to get this person so I can protect Gary. Can y'all relate? He raises his head up. He looks at me and he says, I just have one question for you, Mark. Why does she have to lose for you to win? That lesson has stayed with me my entire life since then. Now, I'm not saying I don't get pissed off and say, I'm going to get them. But I got something that pulls me back to the center with that principle. And I don't know if it'll help you the way it's helped me. I'll get this master document to you, Ashley, and you can get it out. I also would love for you to share my journal with everybody. We've got a new one coming out. It's a little edgy. It's well done. By the way, this one is good. WWAYF. Which wolf are you feeding?
Very good.
I know the story. It's I think it's an old Native American fable. I'm gonna give you a couple more things, and then I think we're probably gonna need to do a Q&A because we're getting close to 4:30, and I don't want to take.
You got 5 minutes, sir.
Well, I'm gonna take 1 minute, And I'm going to share that this is kind of my final principle. I've got a lot of teaching points that go beyond this, but it is evaluate for soulful progress. That means progress according to you, not progress according to anybody else. That means that you're the captain of your journey, not somebody else. I think we can spend a lifetime trying to be who other people want us to be and doing what other people want us to do while starving our own souls. I think the reason that we got into the real estate industry to begin with is I can't imagine any other industry that I would have thrived in like I did the real estate industry. It's because it allows us to be self-determining and self-indexing. And yet I'm going to go back to where I started. And that is, you can't self-index until you know who you are, why it matters, where you're going, how it feels, how you're giving, how you're contributing, and how you're sharing your genius with the women and men that buy and sell homes and do business with you. That when it feels good to your soul, it's because it's on your criteria. See, I used to say, well, I just love people. And this is my final lesson for you, and then I'll take a Q&A. And actually, I think you know what I'm going to say because I shared this with you. I love people because I love people. I don't necessarily love people for what they can do for me. But most people love people for what they can do for them, not because they love people. And I would say choose your relationships wisely and make sure that you surround yourself with people who love you because they love you, not just people who love you for what you can do for them. Good?
Awesome. Really good little messages in the chat box. I'll package those up and send them to you because I'm pretty sure you haven't been reading them.
No, I haven't, but I sure like what I'm seeing so far.
And they needed this message right now, so perfect. All right, questions. See if there's any in there. Don't be shy. You can come off mute. This guy's easy to talk to.
I promise you. I want to hear from Jody Bach.
Hey,
Are you doing all right?
I'm doing great. I miss you.
I miss you. I'm happy to see you.
So where can I get that? Where can I get your folder that you had?
Send an email to mark@willisleadership.com.
Okay.
Please sign up for my journal. That would be the big favor that you'd be doing
Great.
for me. Get on my mailing list. I'll keep sending you this information. This journal is both digital, and then we have a printed copy that we use for sending out special ones. If you can't get the digital copy and you need a printed copy, let me know. But always email me at mark@willisleadership.com. The good news is I'm not in charge of my email anymore. I used to be in charge of my email after year. Well, let me say, Keller Williams, I was never in charge of my email. Susan was in charge of my email. Mm-hmm. I hated it so much that she set up a folder that said For Mark's Review and said, put as few messages in there as possible. Because I'm such a low 3, I don't even like taking the time to type. If you send me something at mark@willisleadership.com, I guarantee you it will be seen and responded to, and we'll get you that document.
I'm going to do it right now.
Yeah. Lori Keller, nice to see you, my friend. Are you up in the Northeast? Oh, you're muted.
Okay. No, I'm in Boerne, Texas, right up the road from you, sir.
Oh my gosh. And who are you working with? That's
This is Tracy Schroeder.
Oh, I know that face. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
This was so great, Mark.
I'm having fun seeing people. I don't know if Judy's still here, but I'd love to say hi to Judy Johns. There she is. And Coach. You guys, you look great. You look great.
So do you.
So
You
wonderful.
always look great.
It's so awesome to be oh my goodness.
It's just,
And good stuff.
and then I see Sherry Lineberger, who I like see on social media. I mean, I'm seeing old friends, and this is just too big a deal to not like do a special like.
We need to do a cocktail hour Zoom, Mark.
I know.
Who said that? Sherry?
That was
No, Ashley.
Ashley, and I'm quickly following up with a thumbs up on that. But Mark, I have a question.
Okay.
All right. So how long do you allow yourself to sit in anger? Because one of the things that I have had challenges with is skipping over the anger part and moving right into like the highlighting of everything. And so I don't sometimes allow myself to experience or give myself that, I don't know what it's called, but I've had a lot of therapy around this, by the way. So how do you do that? How long do you like kind of sit in that or?
Here's what, Sherry, let me just say this to you. I know myself, and I know that what I start doing is I just get into action. And left to my own devices, I just start taking massive action. And when I do that, believe it or not, I scare the people around me. Karen Best. I scare
me for years.
I scare the people around me because I just start moving so swiftly and so rapidly into action. And then I realize that isn't without its own negative, like vibratory field, because it's not dealing with the reality of where we are in the moment. And so I think it's really important that you look inside and you go, okay, I'm angry here. I'm pissed off. I'm really upset. I know I'm not okay with this. What is it? And sometimes you won't even know what it is. And you have to say, okay, if you follow Hawkins will say, don't escape it. Don't repress it. Don't suppress it. And don't project it. Well, what do you think I'm doing when I get into massive action? I'm just projecting all that aggressive energy. And so I try to get kind of quiet inside and go, oh boy, something's feeling a little cattywampus here. And I'm super intuitive by nature and always have been. And so I'll just say, okay, what is that intuition telling me? What do I know versus what do I think? Let's focus on what I know. I got angry and hurt by somebody earlier today. And the way I worked through that it was just a critical conversation where I heard some things that pissed me off. And yet I know that was not the intention of the conversation. That's how I interpreted the conversation. So one thing that helps me is we think in our heads, we know in our hearts. Go to your heart. And as you process some of that stuff, your heart might even feel better and lighter and happier. But you got to acknowledge it. You can't ignore it.
Right.
I'm the king of ignoring things when they don't feel good. I like 100%. I haven't gotten through the rest of the pages. I don't know that I'm going to have time, but I've seen just, you guys have done my heart good. This has been like talk about something that I needed.
We can do this as often as you would like. We've got the best people, Mark. So you are welcome back anytime.
I love you all. I truly do. And Ashley, I got to tell you that I'm really grateful for who you are and your commitment to keep bringing so much value to your community. You're a 1 in a million, and everybody's lucky to be in business with you or to be in relationship with you.
Appreciate that.
That starts.
You taught me well.
I think you were a pretty good learner already.
I remember, and Sherry's on here, so I'll share that we were in a recruit select class with you when my life purpose hit me like a flash. I don't know if you remember, but you looked at me and I just started crying, and then you ran. I went one way and you went the other way.
Oh yeah.
But it's the wisdom and the heart that you've led us with, seriously, has you produced a lot of leaders, hopefully, that are a conduit for what you gave us. So I appreciate you, and so appreciate that we've continued to stay close.
Likewise. I look forward to hearing from you guys. Please sign up for my journal. We're building a mailing list. I would love to have each and every one of you on this mailing list. And I promise you that we'll give first before we talk about anything that we have to get out of this deal. I want to provide value and I want to give. That's what lights my soul. Okay.
Well, have a fantastic week. Hopefully your weather's back to normal and no damage.
Oh, crazy town. It's like a third world country down here.
Oh, geez. Be
Town.
Super careful.
Okay. Well, this was fun, and I've got to tell you, I needed this because I needed kind of an energy shift myself, and you guys did more for me than I can express. So thank you so much.
Love you, man. Tell Bird hi.
I'll tell her. I wish she was here. She'd want to jump on and say hi.
I know.
Okay.
All right. Take care. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.
I enjoyed this so much.